But this is happy hour at the end of the world, after all.
It is. Welcome again, yet again,
to still another episode of Happy Hour at the End of the World, brought to you by
KAOS all around. That's it.
Snickers.
It is.
And Bullet Rye. So what do you make of the Democrats just savaging an African American?
Did you see?
I never thought I'd see the day.
Did you see that one interview where man on the street interview talking to this woman? What would you say to Elon Musk? And she says, "Go back to where you came from." And the guy goes, "You mean South Africa?" And she goes, "What? He's from South Africa." Oh, never mind.
I don't want to lose my job.
It's like, oh crap! I just told somebody to go back to Africa. I thought that was
really funny. They're so upset. I mean, the Dems, they're so upset. They're so deranged that Trump is staking out positions that are 80, 30, 7, 80, 20,
20,
70,
70, yeah.
And he's taking the 80 and the 70, and just because of their derangement, they're taking the 20%, the 30%, and doubling down on it.
Who would have thought that the Democrats would actually come out to defend big, wasteful government? Right? I mean, hey, of all the things, no, Trump must be opposed. He's cleaning up the streets. Get out there and throw trash. Like, really? That's your plan?
Yeah.
Whatever he's doing, obviously can't be good.
They're trying to arrest violent criminals and get them out of the country. We must protect them at all hazards.
I know. It's
because Trump wants to do it. If Trump wanted to cure cancer, they'd have everybody smoking 4 packs a day.
No, it's like Trump is out there saying, there's been a lot of conflict in society. So we're going to go out there and we're going to try to implement please and thank you with every sentence, and smile and be happy. Have a nice day. And it's like the Democrats came out and said, "Fuck you. We're going to have fuck you day. And fuck you too.
Yeah.
And fuck everything.
Skull and crossbones.
And fuck your grandma." It's like, like, really? Your official position is fuck you, right? I mean, that's basically it. I mean, how do you come out with a ridiculous official position like that?
My question for the Democrats is, when you see issues like this, why wouldn't you just get on board with Trump and then claim it as your own?
Hey, here's an idea.
We did this. We were the ones that got the immigrants out of there. We told you we would.
You say, you know what? There's a lot of room for government to improve on. And we're behind making sure that government works efficiently and we provide the best resources to people as possible. Matter of fact, let's take all that savings we're coming up with and put it to good use. Let's make sure we are saving Medicare and saving Social Security, and we're providing a better safety net for people who seem to have fallen through the cracks. We could save $1 trillion. That's great, because that means government can now provide for the people that really need it. But no, instead, it's like, oh, you can't touch any of this. We worked long and hard to build this kind of government, to make sure that all of this feather bedding was built in here. How do you expect government people to retire with millions of dollars if we don't have a bunch of pork and largesse that we can tap into? I didn't get into this for nothing. How am I supposed to? You mean I have to write another book?
I don't want to be one of you. When the pork gets cut, the pig starts squealing.
It's a ridiculous thing. I mean, and the question of what the Doge thing is doing. That they keep acting like he's overstepping his bounds, and he's not.
Well, and they're acting like they were blindsided by this on January 20th.
Right? Yeah.
We've been talking about this for 8 or 9 months, that this is what we're going to do. we are going to do this. And Elon is going to be in charge of it. And everybody voted for, well, not everybody, but more than half the country voted for it.
Sure. But you know
that's the amazing thing. It's like this didn't drop out of the sky.
The thing is that for decades now, the government has been showing where the waste is. You know, you have the General Accounting Office that comes out and says, we estimate, X and so forth amount of waste. We see that there are billions of dollars. I think it was the GAO that came out and said, yeah, you know what? For the last few years, we've been telling you where the inefficiencies are.
The GAO.
And then telling you the next year whether anything's been done about it. And you've got like the 30 most inefficient places in government. There's a Wall Street Journal article today. Always a Wall Street Journal article, right? But there is a Wall Street Journal article today about how all of these things have been right there out in the open, and nothing has been done. And that's the problem. You see, everybody comes out and says, oh, we need to get rid of waste. We need to get rid of inefficiencies. We need to save, the government money. There are people scamming the government. We need to stop this. And they've been saying it forever.
$500 billion to thoroughly examine it.
Well, that's it. They've been saying this forever, but nobody does anything.
Congress has oversight. Congress didn't use their oversight. So Trump said, look, we're just going to create this. Elon Musk has no authority to do anything. All he does is he makes suggestions, and then the people that have the authority to do it act on it, or in some cases they don't. It just depends on, what the situation is at the time.
But so here's the thing is that I can't say this definitively. I don't have any proof of this. This is speculation. Speculation entirely. But everybody who's come into government has needed to get things done. And they've always come into the face of, and they come in saying, well, we're going to save money. We're going to cut waste. We're going to do all this stuff. And then they're faced with the reality of governing. And the reality of governing is essentially you have to be able to trade things off. And so what ends up going by the boards is in an effort to get your programs implemented, that we allow the waste to continue, because the people who want that waste are in a position to tell you, okay, we're going to implement this, or screw you, we're going to make this impossible. And there's always been some vested interest that people have had that have kept them from fully going after stuff. Not to mention the fact that you've got your choice. You can come in and you can spend your political capital getting rid of all this stuff, or you can get your programs passed. And people have been more interested in their legacy, getting their programs passed, than actually cutting through waste. This is the first time that the legacy really is the cutting of waste. And they put somebody in here who does not give a shit about what you have to offer him. What can you give Elon Musk that he cannot get himself? Nothing.
It's like he said when they were, he's in this for himself. And he said, he says, if I steal all this money, maybe I can finally buy nice things. That's what he said to the guy. Yes. So I might be able to get some nice things.
Right. Yeah. That's
what's happened with the oversight before. Like when Congress had oversight, they'd say, we need to cut this and this, and we're going to cut this, but not in my district.
Right.
So you look around the table at the 25 other congressmen who are all saying yes, but not in my district.
Right.
So it's like, we're at loggerheads here. Well, I'll give you this if you'll give me that. And at the end of the day, they didn't cut anything. They increased it by 20%.
Yeah, exactly. And so you've got, and that's the fundamental question of what is the nature of government and what do people need to do? It was Alexis de Tocqueville who said the government, this democratic form of government in the United States will last just until, or up until the point that the people can realize they can vote themselves benefits. And that's where things.
He was exactly right.
That's what has gone awry, because now everybody wants to, where do I get mine? I'm going to vote myself stuff. right? And so it becomes this trade-off of graft and corruption. So what you need is somebody who's really not interested in what you have to offer him in order to get him to cut through all of the crap. And that's kind of what we've going on. And that's the reason for the chaos, because they're doing it all at once. We're not doing it in the Mr. Nice Guy fashion that DC has become accustomed to. Hey, let's stretch this whole cost-cutting thing out over the next 8 years. Trump came in and he said, I don't have 8 years. I've got 4 years, and at best, probably 2.
Yeah, he's living dog years.
That's it. There's a lot of that going on.
It reminds me, the Democrats remind me, this whole situation is like, I think one of probably our favorite quotes from, I think it's Jonathan Swift, who said, when a true genius appears in the world, you shall recognize him by this fact, that all the dunces are in confederacy against him.
Yeah, basically. That's it.
Yeah, and that was the premise of the book, A Confederacy of Dunces. But there was a John Swift quote, and it was like, I look at Elon Musk and Trump, and I think of that true genius appearing in the world. You will know them in this manner, that the dunces will all be in confederacy against them. And that's what's happening. I mean, you look at, who do you want running things? Do you want it to be Jasmine Crockett and AOC, or do you want it to be Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio? Marco Rubio's killing it, by the way.
Marco Rubio's doing a pretty darn good job, making a good case for himself.
Secretary of State. I mean, that guy just knows. He knows his business. That's what he was. 99-0. He got that was his confirmation.
Yeah, he showed up on Monday morning of his first day at the new job with the idea that said, this is where the rest of my life starts, and this is where I make the case for me. Quite frankly, he's taken this as an idea that, hey, this is where I make the case for me as president. And I really think that's what he's doing. He's like, okay, there's no time to waste on all of this.
Did you see footage of the cabinet meeting yesterday?
No, I didn't.
When the full cabinet was there, Trump was there holding court, and Elon wasn't at the table. He was in the background. He's not a cabinet member.
Right.
They got a chance to ask him questions. So they had their cabinet meeting. They began it with a prayer.
Yeah. Okay.
To bless the occasion and all that, something you never would have seen over the last 4 years.
Right.
So Trump's there and they hold their cabinet meeting. And then the room is full of reporters. And they just asked questions until they lost their voices. Because then when they said it was over and they were ushering them out of the room, you know how reporters are always yelling one more question?
Right.
They didn't. They just filed out because they'd asked everything. They didn't have anything left. Trump kept them there until the last dog was hung. He wasn't like, I better not do this. I might get in trouble.
Well, I don't know. People are going to get mad that I'm talking to you so much.
Oh, yeah. I swear as a Biden that I wouldn't, So it was like what Trump always does.
Yeah.
So this idea that, they're not accountable. We don't know what's going on. It's like, what, are you sleeping under a rock? Every day they're telling you, here's exactly what we're going to do. And then they do it and you get so pissed off that, well, they don't have the account. They're keeping it secret. They're telling you exactly what they're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. And they're still like, they've got nothing to come back with because they're still running the fascist Hitler playbook. I don't think anybody's buying that anymore. If they were buying that, Trump wouldn't have won the election.
There's a number of things that, that are out there. And of course, everybody's kind of getting pissed off. The problem that they're getting pissed off about is just the uncertainty around things. Okay. The chaos nature of everything that's going on. Now, I'm not a big fan of chaos. Okay. Flat out. I'll tell you. I prefer non-chaos to chaos.
You're like Maxwell Smart.
Exactly. But it's there are some times that you need to kick over the can. I mean, it's that you're just not going to get things done otherwise. And I think it's important to realize that what you're talking about when we're talking about what Trump is doing is What is the nature of government? Why do we have it? What is its job? What are you supposed to do as a government official? And
Serve the public.
well, serve the public is one thing, but where does the government come from? What is the foundational concept? Let me
Of the
say this.
people, by the people, and for the people, and they're trying to give it back to the people.
Wouldn't it be nice if we had a foundational document that set forth the parameters of the government, that we could go back and say, hey, is the government that we have doing these things? And if it's not in this foundational document, then maybe we shouldn't be doing it, right? Because
we could call it the big government document.
Exactly.
And then people, the Democrats would say, we're having a big government document crisis.
Exactly.
Every 5 minutes.
Exactly. So that's what we need somehow or another. I don't know how we started this government without a plan. Okay. This somehow just fell into place with nobody really having any idea what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But
I just missed the fact that there was never a frigate called the big government document.
Exactly. I mean, where is this big government document? Obviously, there should be somewhere. Probably 850 binders full of things that tell us what the government can and cannot do, right?
Yes. What are the powers of the executive? So, yes, what he's doing is completely legal. He has the authority to do this.
Yeah. Moreover, better yet, somewhere it should say, this is the limit for the government.
Yeah.
And anything outside the parameters of this government are not to be taken by this government, right? Matter of fact, we should send the power as much and as often as possible down to the most local form of authority. Because
you mean states?
I mean states. I mean localities.
Are you saying what the government doesn't take unto itself should be deemed to go down to the separate states?
I think that's a brilliant idea. And I think that should go into the big government document.
Well, I think you're a racist, bigot, and a homophobe. And a slaveholder.
So when we go through and we take a look at things like whether or not, farming out these DEI conventions to Syria, drag shows in, South America, handing money to terrorists in Yemen and Gaza. Maybe this really isn't in the big government document for what governments should do, right?
Right.
And if it's not there, why the hell are we providing money for the drag queen reading hour in Iraq? I'm making this up.
Yeah, because they're not really big on drag queens in Iraq.
Yeah. And, and why are we out there implementing DEI programs in the middle of, Korea, for example?
They're just bowing to the most minuscule sliver of society for some reason. I mean, the whole damn thing's made up. It's incredible.
But look, it's bad enough you've got the government trying to push for the last 4 years, and with a 4-year section that we could carve out there known as Trump 1, the whole Barack Obama years, pushing this ideology in the United States. This DEI, woke, critical race theory, etc., all this kind of stuff is being pushed hard by the left in the United States. Why are we paying to export this, to Catholic regions of South America and Muslim regions of the Middle East? Oh, hell, for that matter, why are we, paying to promote it to Catholic regions of the Middle East and Muslim regions of South America? It's ridiculous that we are trying to export a ideology of wokeness, and we are paying money for non-governmental organizations to do this kind of stuff. I don't know. It makes no sense. There's nothing in the Constitution that says we are supposed to provide the world, cat videos.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, I want to change gears on you.
Yeah.
Jake Tapper wrote a book. We co-authored a book. Actually, just put his name on it. Somebody else wrote it. It's about, the cognitive decline of Joe Biden and his calamitous decision to run for another term.
Yeah.
And so they're doing like he's going to break down and tell you, get you behind the scenes of how it all happened. So steady this week, they're showing Jake Tapper's interviews on TV where people were telling him, like Lara Trump, that Joe Biden is cognitively impaired. And he's furious, pushing back on it. I mean, there's interview after interview where he's covering it up, where he's denying it. But now he's got a book out. And people are saying, well, who's going to buy this book? The left won't buy it because they were lied to. The right won't buy it because they already knew. And I'm thinking, George Soros will buy enough books to make this a bestseller on the New York Times. Yeah. Nobody will read this thing.
Sure, yeah.
And he probably got a couple $1 million in advance to write this piece of trash. But the whole thing, the hypocrisy of this is just stunning. And it's particularly galling for you and I, who were doing, what do you call the Emperor's New Podcast or whatever that was, where we were talking about this guy is cognitively impaired and they're pretending like he's not. We can see it. We're not stupid. Right. We might be biased, but we're not stupid. This guy is Jesus slipped off the cracker. And that's it. And now, oh my God, what a revelation. And people are like, oh, are you kidding me?
Now you've opened up this, and I want to get back then and hammer something that I started hammering when we first started doing this podcast. Because one of the things that was the hallmark of the very first year of what we were doing, when we were talking
Happy
about
Art Theater of the World.
Yeah, when we were talking about what Trump had been going through. And I think I was sitting there, and as often as I tell people this, and as often as I scream, no, everybody has a short memory. The world has a memory about, just slightly less of that of a fruit fly. Okay,
Oh yeah, that's why you can't predict what's going to happen in the midterms.
Right.
Who knows by then what people are going to think or remember?
But we had 4 years of Trump being just absolutely beaten about the head and shoulders with a thing that looked like a telephone book that was called the Russian dossier. Right? Yeah. That's it. Yeah, oh, hey.
Peeing on beds with hookers.
I bet you, if you did a survey today, if I had the money to do this survey, just out of my own personal curiosity, I would. If you ask people when the Russian dossier surfaced, when it first came to the fore, when did the Russian dossier become an issue? I bet you the great majority of people, and I would bet it was probably about 80% or more, would say before the election. That the dossier came out the summer before the election. That's what I bet you people would think. I bet you'd have about 5% of the population that would say, I don't know. You might get, and I'm optimistic about this, that you'd have 15% of the people say it came out after the election. Because nobody believes that that dossier came about after Trump was already elected. The question you have to ask yourself is, why is the Hillary Clinton campaign, and everyone knows at this point in time that Hillary's campaign are the ones that released the document, that pushed to have it investigated. Why is that campaign, having already lost the election, pushing a document they know is false? It's not going to help them get elected. The election's over. They've lost. What's the point of this? And you have to go back to what was going on at that point in time. Everybody remembers that Hillary destroyed some 33,000 emails.
30,000 emails, yeah, plus.
But
they were just about yoga and wedding plans.
Yeah, but nobody really remembers that this was because she was operating exclusively on a server that was not government controlled, that it was a private server. My contention is she expected to be elected. She expected to say, oh, gee, I didn't realize that my private server wasn't appropriate. Here, allow me to restore the record. Because that's the reason we have government preservation of email, is to preserve the record of what happened in the governance of the United States. So right. She bypassed that. She was fully well planning of picking and choosing those things that would complete the record the way she wanted it to be completed. You have to keep in mind that she was on this private email server communicating with Barack Obama, the president of the United States, who was operating on an alias through his own private email.
Yeah, and he knew he was doing this.
Right. This was how
they were I had no idea it wasn't. I mean, he knew.
Two things were going on, in my opinion, on that email server. One was the Clinton pay for play. Okay, Middle Eastern country name here. You want to get something passed. You would like to have the United States a little closer to whatever your ideology is, or at least open to having what you would like to have happen. You need, as the old SNL sketch says, to get to know me. How do you get to know me? Well, Hillary says, first thing you do, you need to hire Bill to give a speech. And after that, you need to make a contribution to the Clinton Foundation. And if you do those two things and we set the price, then we put you in front of somebody. Thanks for getting to know us.
Chelsea Clinton was getting $50,000 for a speech to talk about diarrhea in the Congo.
Sure. Chelsea Clinton's first job she went to work for was the Clinton Foundation. Yeah. She earned $300,000 a year right out of college, right? Ooh, what a surprise. You know, what are the odds that a Clinton would come out and their first job would be for a Clinton Foundation? The odds of those things happening are astronomical.
And if you challenged Hillary on it, she'd say, hey, I know you. Aren't you the guy that committed suicide a week from Tuesday?
I don't know. You're looking a little peaked there. I think you're feeling the...
Yeah.
So here's the problem. Hillary lost. And the whole plan of what to do is now screwed. So,
which is why she had the legendary meltdown on election night.
Yes, but she deleted 33,000 emails because she's covering her ass. But not just that.
I wonder how long that took. Delete.
But no, nobody was out there asking about the pay for play. But what were they asking about? The big question in the summer before the 2016 election was about Benghazi. And if you recall,
what possible difference does that make now? That was her answer.
Right. Yeah. It was like, oh no, that's all, water under the bridge.
Yes, few dead Americans, more or less.
But she had literally came out and blamed everything on a videotape.
Right, that poor bastard.
Right?
Oh my God.
No, this was not an organized effort. This was not an organized assault. This was just a random upsurge because of a video that came out about, and we all saw the stupid video. We're like, God, not even the Middle Easterners could take this seriously. You know?
Yeah. It's like, so they all went home and just grabbed the AK-47s that they all have just lying around, I guess,
and came out in waves of assault, right? Crawling through in coordinated efforts. I'll tell you what, I guarantee you, if those emails had not been deleted, okay, you would have found Hillary Clinton talking to Barack Obama about how they needed to cut their losses in Benghazi. And hey, somebody's going to have to make the hard choice. And if you can't make it, I'll make it. We're hanging them out to dry. That's it.
Or I'm not making it. This is on you.
Yeah. They didn't provide support. They didn't send in special forces to assist. They specifically were telling people to stand down. And they thought they could bury it all under this idea of, hey, it was a video that's, and I'm sure at some point in time, Hillary in an email said, we'll blame it on a video because everybody thinks they're all crazy anyway. You know how they are. They get upset about a cartoon, blah, 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 probably full of racist, whatever. Yeah, exactly. So, there's a whole lot of that shit going on. But moreover, she knowingly then came out and fed the American public a lie about the death of an ambassador and the overrunning of an embassy, an assault on U.S. sovereign territory. Okay? And she was waist deep in that.
Yeah.
That's
what I'd like to see. That's what I'd like to see Kash Patel and the Department of Justice look at.
Yeah, but you see, that was the big problem that had to be removed. We talked before about when we were
so you bump it off the front page with something.
Well, that's it. Well, you had to do two things. One, you had to get it off the front page, right? Two, if they were going to do an investigation, you had to delegitimize and let everybody think that the only reason people are going after you is because sour grapes and they're trying to, have some kind of vengeance. Or, better yet, they're working for a foreign power. Okay, whatever it is, let's just throw up. They came out literally trying to entrap people to get convictions before they had ever even been inaugurated. I don't care who you are. Nobody brings up that kind of hatred. Okay, that's not a personal thing. That's somebody saying, I don't really give a shit about this guy, Trump, whatever. We got to burn him. We got to burn him because I can't let this stuff become uncovered. And that's what it became about. And it took on a life of its own and was fed for 4 years to the point that became the story. The whole story was what happened with the dossier. When did the dossier get? And people still sit there and say, oh, gee, the big evil thing that Clinton did was she released this dirty tricks thing on it. I got to tell you, she's happy to let that go. She doesn't give a shit about that. Mm. Okay, yeah, so it was bare knuckle, stuff. Okay, fine. But I didn't put a FISA court warrant on anybody. I didn't put that out. I didn't tap into anybody. I didn't try to frame anybody. All I said was he was illegitimate, blah, 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 blah. Her hands are clean. And you know what? Nobody is talking about the stuff that they needed to talk about. And the stuff you needed to talk about was Hillary, Benghazi,
and Obama, it's what you said about people
and the money.
People having a short memory.
Yeah.
That's why this stuff, things like this, need to be brought back up. We need to know the origins of these things and why they happen. It can't just be, well, we got away with that, because the very next thought is, well, we can probably get away with it again. Except the one problem that they're facing now is that the legacy media, who's always carried the water for the Democrats, is just imploding before your eyes. I mean, they're taking people they're gassing Joy Reid, probably the number one racist in cable news. I mean, just a horrible human being. MSNBC finally you just cut her loose. But it's not because they're going to go under any kind of a change. It's just they're just going to put new faces to the same old talking points because they wrung her out like an old dish rag and there was nothing left anymore. She served her purpose. So they tossed her aside. And now they're just going to put new people with the same talking points in there, to try and it's the epitome of just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Well, you'll recall
because MSNBC is going to be sold off for parts, and all of those people are going away.
Well, the lately the Democrat ideology or strategy rather that comes down to there's nothing wrong with our ideology. That far left wokeism and progressive Marxism is perfectly fine. We just have to not talk like we're advocating progressive woke bullshit. And as long as we don't talk about it, everything will be fine and we can win elections again. And you don't realize that what you're doing
more
is
Democrats now are watching Fox News than MSNBC and CNN combined now.
Yeah. Well, but the problem with this, I can't remember who it is. It's like the Shefkin doctrine or something stupid. But it's the premise is that what we did with Barack Obama, rather with Joe Biden, was absolutely correct. That what we came away with is a guy who didn't say squat about any of what we're going to do, and then came out and immediately started acting like we had given him a mandate for the inauguration of Joe Stalin. That's it. I was waiting for him to, rename Seattle Bidengrad, right? I mean, it's a northern place, right? Maybe if we could have annexed Vancouver, that could have been Bidengrad. I don't know. You have to be someplace suitably cold that nobody wants to go to. I know, Toronto.
Yeah, where it's like always snowing, even in the summer. Because every picture you see of Russia, it doesn't matter when it is.
Right.
It's snowing and everybody's freezing.
But they missed the whole point that everybody got pissed off, not at the fact that Joe Biden wouldn't tell them what he was doing, but they got pissed off at the fact they could see what he was doing and they didn't like it. Let me back up a little bit because we spent 4 years explaining that Joe Biden really wasn't doing anything. And that was, in fact, the case.
Yeah. It was Geppetto, whoever he was.
Well, I think what you had really was you had Bernie Sanders. Because the guy's still around, and you didn't hear from Bernie Sanders for 4 years. While Joe Biden was in there, nobody heard a word from Bernie Sanders. You didn't hear a peep. He said nothing, except occasionally it was like, oh, at the beginning of everything, well, I think that, Joe Biden's gotten everything. He did everything that I would have done. I mean, he actually said that. Yeah. But now, all of a sudden, here comes Bernie Sanders again. You're like, well, wait a minute. Why didn't he? Where was he for all this time? The answer was he was running the country. You just didn't know about it.
Well, him and Nancy P.
Yeah. And Earl Warren. Yeah. I'll say this now. To move a little bit over to Ukraine. I am willing at this point in time to reserve judgment on Donald Trump's foreign policy.
Zelensky's going to be here tomorrow,
That's why. We'll find out what happens through all of this. And if Trump comes out...
If he puts him in a headlock and gives him a noogie, you're not going to like it.
No, hey, you know what? I'll tell you what. If Trump grabs Zelensky by the collar and says, listen here, see, you're going to do what I tell you, right? All right. We're not going to have any more of this stuff here, right? See? Huh? I'm fine with it. So long as in the end it's, okay, now let's go get something done. But I worry that it's going to be more along the line of, You started it. Yeah, I started it because what? Because I didn't welcome Putin in with open arms. Yeah. See, you could have invited all those troops right in, and no one would have had to die. You know what? I'm sick. I am so sick and pissed off, and this is going to piss some people off. I am tired of everybody saying, "Oh, no more people need to die." You know what?
You think people do need to die?
If it's
that's the side you're taking.
I am taking the side of death over dishonor. I'm taking the side that sometimes you have to stand up and take one if it's in the name of a righteous cause. And if it means that you turn away Putin, you fight until the death to get that done, I think that's fine. Because I don't think you sit there and you say, well, gee, you know what? We didn't have to have these many people die in Russia during World War II. Damn, Stalin could have, those millions of people would have all still been alive if he had just allowed Hitler to come on through. No, at some point in time, you got to stand up and face the evil. And evil is out there. And you either address it and you fight against it. And if it means you succumb, okay, I'm going to be biting your ankle, with my last breath while your jackbooted, goose-stepping whatever comes in and takes over my country, because I will sleep better in my grave knowing I did everything I could. I don't mind that.
Well,
and I would rather have that than live under a subjugated rule of a foreign power. And I think that's what it kind of has to come down to. I don't buy this enough people have died thing. You know what? Enough people have died when he decides that it's not something he wants to be continuing to prosecute. That's when enough people have died.
Well, the situation that makes it different than World War II is just that was when we still could have conventional warfare, and you could bring more to. Now you've got bona fide lunatics around the globe that have nuclear weapons.
Yes.
So it's an extremely. You're talking about mass destruction. Yes. Yes. And I'm someone who thinks, you know what? My feeling is, yeah, this escalated to a point. I mean, Trump couldn't do anything about the escalation. He wasn't there anymore. I still blame Biden for it because he said, hey, if it's a small incursion, he basically greenlit the whole thing. And the first thing he said to Zelensky was, hey, I'll send the military and get you out of there. So what would happen then? He was just saying Russia can have all of Ukraine. That was his first position, that Russia can just have Ukraine. Yes. And they thought, well, no, Zelensky's being stubborn. It's like, whoa, we can make some money here. We just we can start a proxy war, with Ukraine using their bodies, their lives, their blood to fight Putin. What a great thing for us. And I just think that's a real cynical thing for the U.S. to do, because the U.S. wasn't doing anything like we are the protectors of liberty. We are going to defend you. It's like,
that's true. We didn't do that.
Die.
But let me ask you this. I haven't made a determination as to which one of these things you're against. Are you against having it be a proxy war with a whole lot of people die, or are you against selling out Ukraine? Because those were the two Biden things.
Those two things are kind of...
Those are the two things you said that Biden did. And I'm not sure...
That's how he started. Well, no, he started out by selling out Ukraine. And then when he realized...
Are you against...
we've got to have another plan now.
Are you against selling out Ukraine then?
Well, here's the thing.
Because the problem is that what everybody's advocating right now is the Biden strategy. Everybody says, we have to end this war. There's too many things like that. And I feel like everybody's going, well, gee, it's just a minor incursion. And so it's okay. Let's just go ahead and give it up to them.
No, Biden's strategy was to continue the war indefinitely, 5 years, 10 years, 15.
Actually, his strategy was let Russia come in and take over.
That was his first strategy. You got to remember, this is a weakling. This is a weakling that let circumstances dictate to him.
Didn't work.
He didn't take control.
The Biden strategy, which was to let Russia come in and take over didn't work. So we need to take over to make sure that that strategy works. Right?
But he didn't take over.
But he
didn't
is.
take over.
Okay, but he kind of came in and he's taken over some land, and now we're going to say, well, yeah, that's good, because that's the original Biden strategy was the way to go. And if Russia had just been good enough to be able to take things over in 2 days, like Joe thought, everything would be fine.
It's not a binary choice. The choice was to prevent Russia from going in.
But the problem is that what we're left with is a question of, what are we trying to do? You can't criticize Biden for saying, hey, it would have been great if Russia would have won the war in a weekend like we thought. But oops.
No, you criticize Biden for letting them invade. That should have never happened.
How?
The whole thing, Afghanistan debacle.
But wait a minute, what were you going to do? Russia. What were you going to do to keep them from invading?
You go in and with the feckless, weak jackasses in that administration, I don't know. But what you do
put Trump there and tell me what he does.
Like, don't.
But put Trump there and tell me what he does. Because what Trump is doing right now is Trump is going back to that first Biden strategy.
Here's what Biden could have done. He could have not shut down the Keystone pipeline and opened Nord Stream 2 and given Russia trillions of dollars to fight the war with. Okay. Trump had them starving for cash. There's no way the Russians could have mounted an assault on Ukraine if Trump were president, because they didn't have the money. That's the same thing with Iran. When he put down ISIS, they didn't have any money to spread terrorism. Biden gave them all their money back and allowed the whole thing to happen.
Well, Biden did two things there. One is he gave them money, but the other is he pulled away military. Okay. So the thing that would have stopped Putin is not money. Okay. Because they have oil and they're not selling it. If they're not selling it to Europe, they're selling it to China, because nobody
but
is
they're selling it at
$30
a barrel.
But nobody's, okay. They'll do that.
Yeah.
Because they're not concerned about the profit.
Selling it at 120.
Okay.
Biden.
But again, well, if you have a ban on oil, then the price goes up, and then you can sell it to China for much more. And it's outside the international markets, so then you're going to get it. But the problem is the thing that was, you could say hypothetically, Putin would never have gone in because Trump was, too smart, too tough looking, too whatever for him.
Well, he put sanctions on him.
Yeah, okay.
That's what did it.
Yeah, but
that's what kept him at bay.
At the point in time that Biden was there, and they had lined up, and they were coming in, either you say, we don't give a shit and go ahead and take Ukraine, or you don't. My opinion. And it is binary. The idea that we can stretch it out forever is not realistic. It's not. Because you can't stretch it out forever. Because ultimately one side wins. Okay?
Well, ultimately Russia was going to win, and they were going to take over Ukraine, but it was going to cost a few million lives.
Okay.
There's no way Ukraine was stopping Russia.
And if that's the case, then you have to decide. Then is your position sell Russia or give Ukraine to Russia, or don't give Ukraine to Russia?
My position is, as things unfolded, you have to deal with what you have now. You stop it.
Okay, so what do you have? What do you have?
You didn't stop it, but if you can't just keep sending them hundreds of billions of dollars, not knowing where it's going, watching people die, and just keep sending them more. That's not going to do anything either.
Okay, so as long as it was a minor incursion,
it has to stop. And Russia's probably going to get 20% of Ukraine, which was Russia.
Okay, so it's a minor incursion, right?
Well, it's a massive incursion.
That's only 20%. A minor incursion. We're just going to let it go, and that's basically what Russia thought the first time. They figured that you're not going to. They figured that the United States wasn't going to do shit over Ukraine so long as it was incremental. And I think they probably would have done it even under Trump because of the same idea. Because
Oh,
Trump
I
was
don't
like,
think
well,
so.
we're not interested.
For one thing, they didn't have the money, and the other thing, they knew their man. They knew Trump would not sit back and just say don't.
Yeah,
They saw
okay,
him
but
use
Trump,
force. They
you know
saw him
what? I got
take
to
out
tell you,
ISIS.
I don't see Trump
They
sitting
saw him
there.
do all of those things.
I do not see Trump sitting there and saying, gee, we got to stop Putin. We're going to put in troops.
My point
Do
is,
you
it
see him
would
saying
never
it?
have gotten to that point.
Sure, it could have. All they had to do was mass the same troops they have.
It's a counterfactual, but what? I mean, I can't prove that it wouldn't have happened under Trump, but you can't prove that it would have.
No,
all
but what I can say, what I can do
is by what happened
yes.
when Trump was president. They didn't start a
but what I can do is say that what
after Biden was inaugurated. That's when they did it.
What Trump is doing is utilizing the Biden original playbook towards Russia. That's what he's doing. I didn't think it was a good play. I think you need to defend Ukraine. And I think you stand up to Putin. Look, Putin.
Okay, so you're gonna kill Americans for
no,
this.
I am not gonna kill Americans. I'm gonna put Americans where they need to be to defend
they're gonna die for what?
Democracy.
What are they gonna die for?
Your position then
Ukraine's a democracy.
So you don't find anything worth defending. Is that it?
There are certain things I find.
Well, wait a minute. If Russia then, with China and North Korea's help, rolls into Germany, why would we send Americans to defend them? Why would we send Americans to defend Finland? Why would we send Americans to defend Sweden? Why would we?
We're obligated.
What? No, we're not. Trump is half out of NATO anyway. We were obligated. Yes, we were. NATO? We were obligated to Ukraine. We made a promise to Ukraine at its foundation that if it gave up its nuclear weapons, we would defend them against any aggressor.
And they didn't do it.
No, the United States did not do it.
The Biden administration didn't do it.
Yes.
And now you've
got so now we no longer have to worry about that. Is that it?
The whole landscape has changed. You're not going to get that land back.
So it's all no big deal.
Putin's not going to be marched off to a gulag and executed. This is not going to happen.
I'm not asking him to. But what I am saying is that I don't think that he takes
about what you're facing now.
Yeah, I am realistic.
Somebody throws this in your lap and says, "What do you do?" Well, I'm gonna put all of our troops in and I'm gonna push them all back.
No, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell you, because I'm a negotiator and I know the art of the deal. I'm gonna tell Putin, I've got troops in Germany and stationed around Europe, and we are gonna mobilize NATO. And we are gonna put them in here. Now, you don't have to let this happen. You, sir, can pull your troops back to Crimea.
What if he wants to go down with the ship? What if he decides I'm just going to launch?
And if that's the case, what's to stop him from doing anything else?
None of this land will be inhabitable anyway.
Then we're all dead anyway, because you know what?
So we're happy in our graves.
Hey, because he's not going to stop, Mr. Chamberlain.
He has stopped.
No,
now.
Seriously, peace in our time does not work. Don't give me this. Oh, hey, look, I got Hitler to sign the piece of paper that says everything's fine. You can't come along and say, oh, gee, he's got nuclear weapons. We can't do anything about it. He's not
can't do anything
like
about
that.
It.
Well, if that's the case, then you might as well go ahead, drop your pants, spread your ass, and let Putin do whatever he's going to do.
Mutually assured destruction is a pretty good deterrent.
It's not, according to you. We have to allow him to take over whatever he wants, because he flouted the concept.
He didn't take over whatever he wanted. He wanted all of Ukraine, and he didn't get it.
Yeah, and you know what he did? He threatened all of Western Europe and the United States with nuclear annihilation if we did not stay out of it. So he kept himself to conventional forces, and he's having a tough time of it. But he's not going to last forever having a tough time of it. But again, if that's the case, what's to stop him from taking over Latvia or Estonia.
Because Trump's in office now.
Oh, bullshit. Who cares? Trump is not going to do anything because he has nuclear weapons.
You assume he won't do anything.
No, you're saying that he won't do anything because he has nuclear weapons.
No, I'm saying
that's the ultimate thing, because we won't allow that to happen.
I'm not saying he's going to do it. I'm saying you have to consider that. You can't just...
It is a consideration.
This is going to be a conventional war, and we're going to push him back.
Because no, what I'm saying is we call the bluff.
The Chinese are going to move into Taiwan, and the Koreans are going to attack Japan.
Yeah, you know what? That's more likely to happen if you allow Putin to retain the land that he has.
Well, I look at it this way. Trump's making a deal, the mineral deal. He's going to reconstruct. He's got a deal to reconstruct Ukraine, exclusive of China or anyone else. It's going to be America and Ukraine, and he's going to build it back better than it's ever been. Well, that's
great. You know what? Trump's going to put up a hotel at a golf course, and we'll all go merrily along our way until the tanks roll across the golf course.
They won't do that. Not with Trump in office.
Why?
Because they're afraid of him.
Because he's going to raise his staff above, and he's going to part the waters, and somehow or another, the Red Army's not going to be able to pass.
Would you rather have Biden and Kamala Harris in office?
That's not the question.
What do you think would be happening?
That is not the question. That's not even close to the question.
Now, if Biden had won a second,
that has nothing to do with the question. I
agree with you.
I have said both of those choices were absolutely miserable.
It's a whole new ballgame.
Both of them, absolutely miserable choices. Because Trump still will not do what is necessary to make sure that tyrants and dictators don't get a fair share.
Why don't you not?
No, I said earlier.
You haven't seen him in this situation before. You have no idea what he's going to do. Neither do I.
I know. I said I'm reserving judgment on it.
Doesn't sound like it.
No, it is. I said I'm reserving judgment.
Said Trump has capitulated and screwed Ukraine.
I haven't said that
yet.
I haven't said that because that hasn't happened yet. But what you're saying is that's what's going to happen. Because you're saying, well, we can't go on and do this, we can't do that, we can't do the other thing, and Russia's going to get Ukraine anyway. And my position is, well, that was Biden's strategy.
No,
now, I don't think
if they were allowed to fight it out. I'm saying if they were allowed to fight it out, Russia would have won. You think that's not true?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah,
particularly without any support from the West.
So many more deaths. So you got to stop it now. You got to find a way to stop it, and then you go from there. Maybe
I'm going to tell you this.
Push back for more land.
I think my point is, I think this whole thing about, we can't allow more people to die is a bullshit rationalization for going ahead and doing the Biden strategy. That's what I think. Hasn't happened yet. But if it does, that's what it was. It's all word salad bullshit to make you feel better about, we have to save these lives. I'm sorry. It's not. Because if you give Ukraine the chance, and that we have, they have chosen to fight instead. When Ukraine starts surrendering en masse, hey, now you would have proved me wrong. Okay,
they're probably about 6 months away from that.
Maybe 3
million Ukrainians have left the country. They're not even there anymore.
You know that about that much left the country of Russia because they didn't want to be conscripted into the military.
But they have a lot more people.
Yeah. Okay. I know. But does that mean that we give the larger countries carte blanche? Hey, let's just divide the world up and see what happens.
Russia is a country.
Yeah.
Ukraine is a smaller country next to Russia.
Yep.
The big country invaded the little country. And that's wrong.
You know what?
That's who the Democrats ran against Trump.
Moldova.
Do you remember that speech?
Moldova, I know. Moldova is a smaller country next to Ukraine. And from what I hear, target number 2 on Putin's list. Followed shortly by Estonia, Lithuania, and a whole bunch of... No, you know what?
I draw the line at Moldova. We're not giving up Moldova.
Right? You're gonna die. You're gonna die on that hill. You're gonna die for the Estonians. How about the Lithuanians? What about the Finns? We're going to die for the Finns. They're a part of NATO. You think so?
You ever had good smoked fish?
Telling you, I don't see if you can't. If you can't muster it, yeah, I know. I got relatives there.
Finns are very worried about this.
I've got relatives there. I know but I don't
So
see
like,
the United
they're going to turn
States.
their attention towards us.
Nobody is satisfied me to the idea that somehow or another Trump's going to be the guy that stands up and says, "Hey, no, this line no farther." Because I haven't seen it. Because you'd rather take that. Look, put it this way, I know that making the allusions or allegories back to World War II are imperfect. Okay, but still, if you stop Hitler in the Sudetenland, you save a lot more lives. That even if it takes lives to do it, than if you allow the war to continue.
I feel more comfortable with guys like somebody like Marco Rubio rather than Anthony Blinken.
Oh no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm happy with that. And like I say, I hope
that the U.S. will put up more of.
I really hope that it comes out and we find that we get the Trump we want rather than the Trump we deserve.
What we're hearing though is for public consumption. We don't know what the talks are behind the scenes.
True, very true.
Because what we had in the previous administration is they'd talk like really tough in public, and then Biden would roll over on his belly on his back and show his belly in private. And Trump is just the opposite.
Yeah.
They'll say a bunch of conciliatory weird shit. Ukraine never be NATO. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
You don't. But we'll have to see. And I said as much.
I don't mean you. I mean editorially.
I know.
We don't know.
I said as much early on. I think that it's we have to look. This is the administration we have, and I hope that they do the right thing.
The administration and the situation.
So that's the we have to, as Republicans, we have to get beyond this point in time where we still want to go back and smack around Biden. He's an easy target. So I understand.
Well, he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's gone. But my only point was,
and we're the ones operating.
Was it Zelensky? To me, it was Biden. I know that's over, but if we had a strong commander in chief that was respected, they would, as soon as they started massing along the border, a president would have started massing along the border.
Yeah.
And said, okay, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I'll give you. Hey,
nobody's fired a shot yet.
So
you can't even get your damn troops. Remember, they couldn't even get their damn troops into line. They were strung out on that road for, what was it, 17 miles?
Yeah, we could have just taken them.
Strafed those bastards and knocked them out.
We could have. I don't.
All you had to do is send some fighter jets over and say, listen, you need to pull these people back.
Yeah, and we didn't.
But nobody did that.
Right. But we've got a situation now where I mean, the parallel still exists, between, the 1930s and now. Neville Chamberlain sitting there, going through acting peace in our time and all that kind of shit. When Churchill arrived, he was already stuck in the middle of a war. Okay. Churchill didn't declare war. Churchill was sitting in the background saying, do not trust this guy, this little corporal. You can't trust this man. He's got grander ideas than just what you think. Okay. Told everybody who would listen, and very few people did. Neville Chamberlain, peace in our time. Let's make sure we can go ahead. Okay. Yeah. The Versailles Treaty sucked. Here, take back the Sudetenland. You need what you have. As long as I have the paper that says this is all you're going to do and no more, that's fine. And when they continued, they brought in Churchill. Now, Churchill is stuck with somebody else's war. But Churchill still had the opinion of what you had to do to face it down. You didn't spend his time saying, well, this never would have happened if I had been, prime minister. And I hear a lot of this never would have happened, but I hear very little of this is how I'm stopping this shit.
Okay, let me give you an imperfect parallel. Somewhat of a parallel, but imperfect. Russia's not attacking us. They're attacking Ukraine.
No, but they threatened us.
Yeah, and Biden just let it happen.
Sure.
But you know what else Biden let happen? Biden let an invasion of our southern border happen for 4 years.
Yes, he did.
the very first day Trump was in office, he started attacking that problem, getting people out of there, arresting them, deporting them. He took action. He didn't just say, well, there's nothing we can do with the people that are here.
Yeah. Have you seen the
He's like,
numbers,
we're
by the way?
getting these people.
Have you seen
because it's our country. He says, we're getting people out of here.
Have you seen the numbers of illegal crossings at the border? Have you seen?
Yeah, they're down to like 200.
Yeah, exactly.
Down
the
from
people
15,
who said,
000.
oh, no, this is just what's going to happen. You can't do anything about it. All of a sudden, the number of border crossings, illegal border crossings goes down from thousands, 5,000 in a day. And they were going to craft legislation.
The high water mark was 15,000 in a day.
They were going to craft legislation that said, after 5,000, we'll start doing stuff.
Yeah.
And
that was now, the bipartisan bill.
I know. Now
because
we're down.
As Biden said at that time to bring up Biden again, well, there's nothing I can do. I have to have Congress. Trump doesn't have Congress.
Right.
These are executive orders.
And we're down to 200.
Yeah.
Or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everybody's scared shitless for
but
whatever.
That's
anyway.
Here, though. He's like protecting his own borders.
Yeah.
So let's see what he does with the Ukraine borders.
We'll see. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And I hope to God Trump is the Trump I would like him to be.
You know what I think he'll do?
I
think he'll just start violating. I think when he starts rebuilding Ukraine, he'll start violating property lines like 100 feet at a time. No, we're just going to build here. No, this is going to be out.
He's going to get it all back via squatters' rights. Is that it?
Yeah, that's right. All of a sudden, there'll be all of these hotels and condominiums and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, Russia will be back where they started from.
I don't know.
Don't mind those iron gates around these places. That's just for show.
I do know you can't pick your Trumps. And that's the unfortunate thing.
Trumps. We've covered this in great detail. You get one.
I know. It's a problem.
You get one.
And it would be nice if we had somebody,
you want southern border Trump in Ukraine. That's what you want.
Yes, I do.
That's what you want.
I'm going to tell you this. I understand from the emotional perspective, not the intellectual perspective, but from the emotional perspective, a lot of what the Democrats are going through when they sit there and they see and the nervousness that can occur. I was down in Williamsburg with my dad. So anyway, we're down there, and of course, he's got on the National Geographic channel, and we went through this whole thing about the tapes, the Hitler tapes. Well, not the Hitler tapes, but the tapes from all the Nazis after the Nuremberg trials and everything like that. They were interviewed, and they were like locked away for years. Now we're getting them back and everything. And so they're taking you through all this kind of stuff, and you start hearing, about how Trump, when he came to power, well, he didn't have they brought him in, they didn't know what to do. They were hoping to get him into the chancellor because they could, and then it's like everything happened like that. It was like all of a sudden he's chancellor, and then one thing after the Congress gets
Trump, you meant Hitler.
Sorry, I meant Hitler. But the thing is, the parallels.
You need to edit this.
The parallels are like you're sitting there, you're going, this feels a lot like Trump. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff. Now, there's no crystal knot, no night of the long knives. Hillary Clinton hasn't been employed to make people suicide. Okay, so nobody's died, and no Jews have been interred. But a lot of the other stuff has that same kind of chaotic feeling.
You saw this time especially. You've seen Trump coming from a mile away.
Oh yeah, but that's
everything they've thrown at him, and he just keeps coming, like Nicolas Cage in Con Air when he's getting shot and he keeps walking forward.
Yeah,
that's Trump.
But again, there's like all this. You start seeing or you start hearing the progression of things, and you start kind of getting that feeling of things, and then of course the line is always how Hitler was there, and his whole point was he was just going to make Germany great again.
Well, you really want a gig on MSNBC, don't you?
And you're like, you're going, nah. See, I mean, I don't believe it. Okay, I'm not calling Trump Hitler.
You're not.
Okay, I'm not. Okay, because you think about it. I mean, were it not for the final solution, okay, and the whole killing of Jews and internment camps and all that kind of
You
stuff,
might
that's
have gone
just
out and had a drink with Dog.
that's absolutely heinous. The rest of it is still somewhat okay, par for the course for the history of Europe. Okay,
a slippery slope.
nobody sits. Look, you think about Napoleon. All right, nobody sits there and says, "Oh my God, he's Napoleon," you know, and right?
They didn't know he was Napoleon until after.
Napoleon went and took over all of freaking Europe. It took an alliance of England and some Prussians to eventually defeat Napoleon, okay, and his empirical ways. But he was out. Look, in France, they loved him, right?
Well, I'm sure there's guys that grew up with Caesar and said, God, he's a dick. I've known him since we were 5.
Right?
He's nothing.
But so the big overrated problem, the big problem, nobody had a problem with the idea that Hitler wanted to take over Europe. I mean, really, that was the whole reason half of England.
Everybody does eventually.
Right. Well, I mean, you had the reason that all these guys, Neville Chamberlain included, figured that it was fine.
To me,
they
Trump's
figured it was
take over Europe.
Well, they figured it was just another thing, right? Oh, it's you know what? Every few centuries, we get some guy coming in here taking over Europe.
Some loudmouth comes along.
You know what? We go ahead. We'll surrender. Eventually, he'll die. Everything will go back to normal.
Eventually, he'll go away.
Right. It's not a big deal. And so that's what they felt about Hitler. Hitler was a different kind of sort.
The difference between Hitler and Trump is Hitler didn't go into office and immediately start cutting the size of his government. I mean, that's a really bad fascist.
Well,
maybe the worst fascists in the world say, you know what? I'm going to take my government and I'm going to slim it down, take away its authority, its power.
He did basically fire all of the government. He made them
all losers.
He made overrated. and then he ended up
bright.
Yeah, well, of course, I don't know. It's interesting stuff, but I'll tell you what, it does. I mean, it's not as we call it, as we used to say back in the old marketing days. It's not the same product, but it has that same kind of look and feel to it.
It has some of the same features.
The idea of Hitler going around and having all these rallies. And
why don't you do this?
And it's like a religion for some folks.
I accept I'm Hitler, but I'm new and improved.
No, again, you can't pick your Trumps. And we don't know which Trump we have this 4 years. I'm hoping we have the good Trump. I really hope Hitler Trump is not here.
I'm excited to see how it unravels. You know the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times?
Yeah, there you go.
That's been us for like the last 10 years.
I don't know if my heart could take it, dude.
It's been a little more than a month, and it's just been a whirlwind.
On top of that, now we have a comet that's going to hit us in 2032, which means
Elon will take care of that.
No, I don't know. I think what you're going to get is Elon is going to be pulling Bruce Willis out of retirement, forgetting that Bruce Willis can't do a lot of the same stuff anymore. He's going to send them up there, and all they're going to do is they're going to knock this asteroid into 2 pieces, and both of them are going to hit Earth. And that is in Revelations chapter 8, which is,
Elon's
I think,
going to build a great big catcher's mitt on a spring, and it's going to go up into space and catch it.
It's okay. That sounds a little more like Bugs Bunny than.
That's where I saw it. I hope Elon watched Bugs growing up. I think that's where he got most of his ideas was from Acme Rockets.
I think so. But it's no, seriously, if 2032 is halfway through, then the tribulation, that means it starts what, 3 years earlier? So
7, right? Isn't it 7?
No, but you'd only be halfway through the 7 years.
tribulation is 7 years.
Right. So you're talking really like 2029.
Yeah.
Right?
After Trump leaves office.
That's exactly it. So the first years
President
after Trump
Buttigieg.
leaves office, that's when the tribulation starts. I thought we only had 2 years. Looks like we may have 4 years before we're all completely fucked.
Yeah. So let's enjoy it. We who are about to die salute you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
On that note, I think we have reached last call.
Yeah, that's last call. If you want to get a hold of us, you can do so at happyhoursend@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, and the podcast will come, or like us on Facebook and follow us, like us, whatever, and it'll come directly to you. We're on Spotify. Where else are we?
Well, we're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. Maybe I can make some hash of this and put us up on the
basically
YouTube.
Wherever you find any of the homeless, you can find us.
Tell us your Trump, because that's what I'd like to know.
Tell us the Trump you want. Yeah.
You can't pick your Trumps, but if you could,
which Trump would it be?
What is the Trump you would pick? I'd like to see that. Go ahead and let us know.
If Trump were a Russian nesting doll, which Trump would you open up and say, that's the Trump for me?
Here's my Trump. All right. Well, anyway, for Brian Bordeaux
and Stephen Dean.
Cheers.
Sláinte.